عندي 106 سنين 106 سنين الحمد لله.
Welcome to Meet Us on the Abraham Path. I'm Anisa Mehdi, Executive Director of the Abraham Path Initiative. API helps create walking trails in Southwest Asia, a region also known as the Middle East, and we encourage people to use these trails to walk and to get to know one another. We use our webinar series also as a path of connection because it's important to connect and to notice that sometimes preconceptions hinder our thinking, provoking fear and doubt rather than curiosity and kindness. Walking can help. There's a lot to do to dispel the stereotypes we hold, sometimes unconsciously even, about others. And what better way to dispel stereotypes than walking through breathtaking landscapes and small towns? Who really lives there? Photographer Daniel Maissan and journalist Lisa Dupuy have been doing just that. In 2020, they walked parts of Jordan and Turkey, masked, of course. And in spring 2021, as fellows of the Abraham Path Initiative, they walked over 100 miles in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. In today's program, Daniel and Lisa joined us from the Netherlands to share with us what they learned walking through the Kurdistan region and a bigger picture that has emerged for them about their project. We also welcomed today a very special guest, Bayan Rahman, representative of the Kurdistan regional government to the United States. Due to circumstances beyond our control, the first half of this program was not recorded, and my camera stopped working. So we have to go with what we have. We will join the conversation midway through, after Representative Rahman described how important tourism is and will become for the Kurdistan region of Iraq, and after Lisa and Daniel showed photos and told stories of their time in Iraq during Ramadan and the Eid al-Fitr. They talked about looking back at their 3 journeys and how they began to see that their project is larger than what they had originally called Meeting Abraham. There are endless stories to tell. And if you're only looking for Abraham or Ibrahim, you may miss lots of them. Stories about women, for example. We pick up the recording as Lisa describes how their thinking began to change.
And we called it Meeting Abraham because we figured if there is a way to connect and maybe transcend the notion that there's a lot of conflict in the Middle East, which is a frame that especially I think out of the two of us are I'm very familiar with as I'm a journalist. I report on the Middle East from time to time. And we figured actually it would be very nice to have a project of our own that would examine how conflict as well as the frame of conflict could be transcended, how we could make stories about this region without paying too much attention to the notion of conflict. And we took the Abraham path, and then we took the person of Ibrahim or Abraham to try and find a way to meet people and understand, by looking for modern Ibrahims, trying to understand something about day-to-day life now for people in the region as we crossed it on foot. What's nice is we take our sweet time. This is our own project, our own personal project. So we have the time both to spend a month walking, as well as we have time in between to reflect on what we've learned. And I think with this 3rd stage now behind us, I think we've come to realize, there's actually so many stories that wouldn't make the cut if we only paid attention to Ibrahims.
Our project was called Meeting Abraham, which was for us a very interesting discovery to at a certain moment come up to the point that we looked at each other and said, but we're not meeting any Abrahams, we're meeting Ibrahims. which is completely it is the same, but it's not. And also we suddenly realized that by looking and scouting for these men called Ibrahim, we not disqualified, but at least paid a lot less attention to about half of the people that we meet during our trails, which are the women, because they will never carry the name Ibrahim.
Unless it's a last name or a family name, but
we have one of our guests on the program, actually. Her last name is Ibrahim. Yeah, but it's true. That's something we've looked at the Abraham Path Initiative as well, is we leave out all the Sarahs and the Hagars and the Miriams and the all of the women. And so I think that, you know, if you're talking about evolving your work, this might be a really huge opening for you.
You know, we meet women.
I have a few of some women that we met. For example, some young ladies that are very into the outdoor life, hiking, kayaking on Dukan Lake, but also in Halabja we met Birivan, which is a very famous soccer player there. Also we figured that by changing into a narrative of not looking for the Abrahams, but looking for the smaller stories of a bigger picture, and looking for the national trails, all of a sudden new areas were open for discovery as well. For example, the Lebanon Mountain Trail is all of a sudden in the picture, as beforehand our plan kind of swished by the Lebanon Trail, which was for me very, I was very happy about that. So we kind of, on the website, we made a huge change. We rebranded, renamed our project.
And you named it, give it the new name now.
We went from Meeting Abraham to a company of many, because that is what it is. It's a huge amount of people that we meet, who all have small stories that in the end create a bigger picture for us of what it really is like in the region, and not from the stories that we hear here in the news and other media outlets, but on the ground. So that is kind of what we do, and that's what we keep on doing.
Daniel, I've been a reporter in the field. We talked about this a little bit, and in fact, Representative Bayan Rahman has been a reporter in the field, the representative of the Kurdistan Regional Government. Right. And I've always found that when my thesis is either confirmed or gone beyond what I thought, or actually turned on its head, I'm very excited, because I'm not out there as a reporter, right, to make my point. I'm out there to find out what it is. Mm-hmm. I use the word electrifying. Has this been an exciting, positive change for you as you notice the expansion of your theme?
I think expansion is the right word for what's happened, which also makes you think, oh my God, how are we going to fit all of that in? But you know, I think we called the project Meeting Abraham because we thought it would help us. Exactly, we exactly did think it would help express the attempt of let's try and transcend conflict and strive, or in perceived contradiction, or whatever it was that the negative frame was that we were trying to shatter. So that's strange, right? We were trying to do away with a frame, and what we did is we pulled at another frame to help us tell the story. So we realized that that's something that we've been doing. We created another set of strict sort of guidelines for ourselves to try and tell a story, while the things that we loved about going on the actual reporting trips was, sure, meeting the Ibrahims was great, but you only meet them because you also meet a lot of other people, and there's interaction between the two of us. And while walking, we learn a lot from the people that take us on the trails, that do translations for us. So I think initially, because these signs had been there, right? I mean, we'd realized, of course, on our first trip, oh, actually, it's not Abraham, it's Ibrahim. A lot of people would actually ask us about, oh, you have a mosaic of portraits, it's all men, but doesn't that bother you because, well, I'm a woman, so so we would always be very conscious of, oh, we have to try and find a way to get the women in there. And so these all seemed like practical issues or semantic issues or things on the side, even issues and questions that we would be able to rectify later. And eventually at some point we figured, at some point we're going to give the entire overview of the whole project, and that's going to be the time to address these issues. If we address it, let's say 4 or 5 years from now, once we've managed to walk up everything, it'll be too late, because then we'll still have missed a lot of things, probably.
Well, we always miss some of the stories, I think,
Sure.
is true. Could I ask Representative Bayan Rahman to join us again and see if we have some questions that might be appropriate for her or for all of you? There's one that has come in, which is from Raju Bhatt, asking, do we have interest in visiting the indigenous Indians in the Amazon to do similarly reframe stories?
I would love to.
Sure.
I would love to.
My question around that really is, I wonder what lessons you can take, and perhaps the representative can address this as well, from the experience in Kurdistan to other places. You've learned to overcome hardships over many years, invasions and horrors, particularly in Kurdistan and elsewhere. There have been horrors committed on so many people. What can you bring to a community like the native indigenous people of the Amazon based on what you know in terms of how you made it through? I often think that we don't have enough international exchange of lessons and encouragement to people who are going through similar struggles.
To whom are you asking this question?
Well, I think I'm asking the representative, but I don't know if you have. Suddenly, I've gotten very political here, which is not my MO on these programs, but I'm sure there are lessons that can be shared.
Well, thank you. First, I really want to thank Daniel and Lisa. I think that was such a fascinating run through your visit, and I would love one day to have the opportunity to have a coffee or a chai, a tea, and really discuss your journey. With regards to your question, Anisa, I know nothing about people in the Amazon, but I do think the Kurds have a story of resilience. We have been oppressed for so long, and we have surprised ourselves and others by continually coming back and starting all over again and seizing the opportunities that come our way. And I hope, Daniel and Lisa, you saw in Kurdistan, I'm sure you must have come across stories of genocide. You mentioned you went to Halabja, where 5,000 civilians were killed in a chemical bombing 3 years ago, 1988. And yet, the city is thriving. The new generations are going to universities and creating jobs and so on. Of course, there are always issues. We can always do better. But when you think that only 30 years ago, Saddam Hussein was trying to eliminate the Kurds, the fact that not only we survived, but today we have a region We're thriving. We're actually doing much better than many other communities in the Middle East. I think that story of survival, that story of seizing the opportunities that come your way, I think that can be replicated. A lot of it has to do with the will of the people. If you look at the rest of Iraq, had as good an opportunity as Kurdistan after 2003 to seize on the investment opportunities that came, the support from the international community that was offered. Some parts of Iraq have seized that opportunity. We can see that, for example, now in Anbar province. They've really started to do well. But other parts of Iraq fell into conflict, and it's sort of gone from bad to worse, unfortunately. So I do think the will of the people has a lot to do with it. But the story of survival and seizing opportunities, which is a Kurdish story, I think can be replicated elsewhere. And I hope Lisa and Daniel, you came across some of the things that I've just mentioned there.
Well, yeah, we definitely did. Absolutely.
We definitely did. Yeah, for sure. And I think, Anisa, to answer your question, if I may, of what you can bring, for example, to the communities in the Amazon, what we could bring by going there, I reckon that the thing that we can bring is genuine interest. Just be there on the ground to listen to stories that people really would like to share and maybe not have the opportunity to share. I guess for the Amazon, it goes exactly the same for the Kurdish region in Iraq, is that for people, for example, in the Netherlands, but also in America or the rest of Europe for that matter, we know a lot about the region of what we hear and what we read and what we hear and see on television. But when you take the effort to actually go there, be on the ground, have a cup of tea, and have that chat and listen to those stories of the people that you meet, which are not journalists or politicians or people of higher places, but the general shepherd or the head of a small village or even a farmer. They all have stories, regardless where they're from, whether that is Jordan or Turkey or the Amazon. I think that is what Lisa and I at least have to bring if we go anywhere, for that matter, anywhere in the world. People have stories wherever you come, and people are really, really, really eager to have a genuine listening ear for their stories.
And that's one of the main reasons that we at Abraham Path Initiative encourage the development of walking trails, because you can have that interaction with people that you can't have sitting on a bus as you drive past and see some beautiful sights and important sights. But it's not the same as sitting and having the cups of tea that you so cherish, Daniel, and also the great coffee, Lisa, that you cherish and that I'm sure the representative knows is available equally in the Iraqi Kurdistan region. You know, the path of people who are ethically intended, you know, who want to turn strangers into friends, who want to exhibit hospitality, who want to tell their stories for the benefit of not only their families and their children, but for your families and your children. And I think, as you said, Daniel, we'll find more in common than we have differences at the heart of all of that. Next month, when we have our webinar, we'll be celebrating the 15th year of the first walk that was taken in an effort to find out whether it's possible to walk in this region and get to know people. In November of 2006, a Harvard study group spent 10, 12 days walking and taking buses partly, but they started in Turkey and they went through Syria and ended up in Hebron, al-Khalil, which is the place where the shrine of Ibrahim is, where he and his family are said to be buried. So I welcome all of you to attend that webinar with us. We'll have William Ury, who is the founder of the Abraham Path Initiative and the co-author of Getting to Yes, a very essential book for negotiation, and Ali Abu Kumail, who is with the World Bank and oversaw our 5-year project in Palestine with funding from the World Bank to help build the 330-kilometer long, at the time it was the Masar Ibrahim al-Khalil, the Trail of Abraham, the friend of God, but now it is the Palestinian Heritage Trail. Representative Bayan, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to say, perhaps an invitation to everybody to come and walk in your beautiful country.
Yes, I would love for everybody to come to Kurdistan. I think you'll find a very hospitable people, very welcoming, and there's so much to see and do. So absolutely a very warm welcome to everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me today.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
If I can add one tip, maybe if you come and visit, don't do it in May, because it's already quite hot.
Well, walking season, when would you recommend? Spring and fall?
I imagine now would be a good time. Maybe even April, but still would still be good. We were on the late side. But
well, let me remind our audience and each of you, Lisa, Daniel, and Representative Abdul Rahman, we are in the process now of raising funds specifically to get the first section of our trail in Kurdistan, that pilot segment, 3 to 5 day continuous walk, to get that ready for walkers when they return. So we'll be working hard on that, inshallah, God willing, in 2022. So if you've got the gusto to go, please support our effort at www.abrahampath.org, and we'll be very grateful to you, as we are to all of you for joining us. Thank you so much, and hope to see you again. Hopefully my camera will be working next time too. I don't know. This was a day of technical difficulties.